Welcome to Red-tastic. Story 1. I, 34 female, became a widow 3 years ago when my husband died in a car crash. He was driving 130 kilometers per hour in a 60 kilometers per hour zone and rammed into a lamppost, dying on the spot. My ex-mother-in-law and ex-sister-in-law never liked me, so they used his death as an opportunity to push me out of their lives for good. They blamed me for his death because I had asked him to go on a grocery run that night. He crashed about 10 minutes after leaving home at around 7 p.m. My husband was terrible at keeping up with household chores. I constantly had to remind him to do anything: washing dishes, laundry, you name it. The sink would pile up with dirty plates and laundry would only get done when he ran out of clothes to wear. I got sick of it and ended up doing most of the chores myself, except for taking out the trash, some occasional yard work, and grocery runs which he was supposed to handle, but he never did. Not without me having to remind him for days at a time. It was incredibly frustrating, and I felt like I was living with an overgrown child. That night, we had a fight because he had been putting off the grocery run for a week, and we were out of everything. Out of frustration, I said something along the lines of, "You better go get groceries or don't come back." He left angrily and within minutes he was dead. I was a complete mess afterwards. The guilt was unbearable and was nearly suicidal. I had never known any family and he was my only family ever. However, my ex-sister-in-law and ex-mother-in-law blamed me, understandably, and barred me from attending his funeral because I had caused his death. Days after his service, they guilt-tripped me into leaving our home, which was in his name, and told me I should forfeit my rights to it. So within 2 weeks, I found myself husbandless and also homeless. They cut off all contact and blamed me entirely for what happened. I was already blaming myself, so I understood their anger. It was a dark time, and it took me years to feel somewhat normal again. I quit my job, moved to another state, and rebuilt my life from scratch. Recently, I had some unexpected luck. I won the lottery. A lot of money. I don't have any family, grew up in foster care, or anyone to spend it on. But this money means I can live comfortably for the rest of my life, if I'm smart with it. But now, out of nowhere, my ex-in-laws have come out of the woodwork. My ex-sister-in-law reached out to me on Facebook last week, and she's been bombarding me with messages ever since. She's demanding compensation for what she claims I caused, her brother's death. She even threatened to sue me for the money if I refused to do the right thing on my own volition. My ex-mother-in-law is involved too, saying it's the least I could do to make sure they're taken care of after everything I caused. I blocked them both because I just can't deal with this, but I have doubts. I've been through so much and I don't want to go back to that dark place. I know they're grieving too, and maybe they're struggling financially, but I just don't think I owe them anything. They already got my husband's house. Just in case though, should I be doing more for them given the circumstances, or am I right to keep them blocked and move on? I'm really struggling with this and would appreciate some advice. Update. Before I begin, I want to clarify a few things that might help explain why I got so manipulated by my ex-in-laws and why I feel so conflicted now. I've struggled with low self-esteem for most of my life. My husband was my first relationship. And looking back, I can see that it was not healthy in many ways. My therapist has helped me understand that I let my husband take me for granted. I would do all the chores, handle all the responsibilities, and still get blamed for everything that went wrong. I was so desperate to make the relationship work and feel loved that I allowed it to continue, even though it was draining and damaging. After his death, my ex-mother-in-law and ex-sister-in-law took full advantage of my low self-worth and lack of anybody to stand with me on my side. They manipulated me into believing I was the cause of the accident, convincing me to leave our home, which was in my late husband's name. At the time, I felt so much guilt and shame that I went along with it, thinking I deserved all the blame. It's taken years of therapy to see how toxic that entire situation was and to begin rebuilding my life. Now on to the recent situation with my ex-in-laws. I've sent a message to my ex-sister-in-law explaining that she and her family are currently living in my late husband's home and that legally I'm doing them a favor by not claiming it back. If they continue to harass me or threaten legal action, I'll send a cease and desist letter. Since I sent that message, they've gone silent, at least for now. I know they're probably shocked. I'm shocked at my coldness too, but also proud. I'm done letting anybody take advantage of me. I've learned a lot in therapy. And while part of me still feels guilty, old habits die hard, I'm starting to realize that I deserve peace and to live without their constant manipulation. I'm not sure what will happen next, but I'm ready to go scorched earth if they keep pushing. I won't let them drag me back into that dark place. I'm focusing on moving forward, using my winnings wisely and continuing to work on myself. Thank you all again for the support and well wishes. You're not responsible for your husband's death, OP. You didn't cause his death, and I'm sorry your in-laws made you feel like you did. And his death was your fault. Accidents happen, and he got into an accident. You were kind enough to give them the house and be homeless. After years of rebuilding yourself and them not speaking to you, they had the guts to contact you again because they heard about your lottery wins. They don't deserve any compensation or money from you. I'm glad your therapist has helped you see the situation more clearly and given you confidence. Don't let these people take advantage of you more than they already have. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for getting into an argument with my girlfriend's mom? So my girlfriend of 2 years has invited her mom and 15-year-old brother to spend Christmas together. This was last year. We live in a different country, so she thought it would be nice to celebrate the festive season all together, as she doesn't see the family very often. My girlfriend didn't really consult with me and bought the flight tickets for her mom and brother for 1 week at ours. This was kind of annoying considering we live in a small studio, but we have room enough for 4. I thought 4 days with the family would have been enough, but not the whole week. Girlfriend explained that the tickets were at reasonable price only for a 7-day period, and that getting a hotel in the city is super expensive, which is the case. When her family came over, my girlfriend was working, so she asked me to take them to the city and show them around. I was on holiday at that time, but I was still mad at her, so I declined. I also really needed my own space due to stress at work. Then Christmas came around and my girlfriend and her mom were cooking dinner. They also brought me some presents which were nice, but I didn't want to spend Christmas with her family, so I left for my office. When I came back, the whole family was watching TV really loud, and I felt that was too much for me, so I turned off the TV. Her mom told me to get back to the office if I kept acting like this. Next day, my girlfriend's mom came over and told me that I was very impolite, and she was mad. I told her that she didn't value my space, literally doing anything she wanted around the house. She was also mad that I didn't spend time with them at all over these 7 days. But I mentioned that I'm an introvert and stressed at work and wanted to spend Christmas with my girlfriend only. So we got into a huge argument, and since last Christmas, I haven't spoken to her mom. Am I the a-hole for getting into such an argument with her mom? You're the a-hole, OP. It's understandable for you to get a little mad at your girlfriend because she didn't consult you before inviting her family over. But this doesn't excuse any of your behavior throughout the time they were there with you guys. You acted like an asshole. Even if you're stressed at work, you could have still found a way to suck it up and make your guests comfortable for a week. Especially if these guests are your girlfriend's family. You owe your girlfriend's mom an apology. She was patient with you and she only said her piece when she couldn't put up with your behavior anymore. You have to learn to be more accommodating, especially if you want your relationship with your girlfriend to go anywhere. Now for some comments. You're the a-hole by a mile. 4 days is too much when they never get to see each other. Really? Turning their TV off instead of just down? If work is shit and you need some time alone, make up an excuse and leave for a pretend appointment and go somewhere where you can do what you want for a bit. And you've got to do some things and put up with some things that you don't always like. To not be the a-hole, you need to apologize. Yes, I think you're the a-hole. You live with a daughter and see her all the time. Her mother had a few days at Christmas. Being grumpy about them visiting, not spending any time with them, and then not talking to her since then, makes you the a-hole. Turning off the TV was rude. You could have asked them to turn it down. And when they're there, what do you expect them to do? Sit perfectly still until they leave? Of course they need to do things at your house. Why not make the best of it and try to make them feel welcome? It is just a week. You're the a-hole here. Your girlfriend should have discussed this with you, yes, but your situation doesn't supersede your actions here. You being stressed about work is not an excuse to act like an a-hole, the TV thing, etc. They don't value your space because it's not just your space. Half of it is your girlfriend's space. No offense, but you sound kind of spoiled. Not everything is always going to go your way. You just have to deal with it sometimes. Sometimes it's gonna suck. You're gonna have to spend holidays with the in-laws. You're gonna have to live with people who are making noise when you don't want to deal with it sometimes. Don't you get it yet? That's what life is all about. Relationships and how we come to terms with them. And you failed miserably at it, it sounds. You should apologize if you can. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for calling my dad disgusting after he found a new girlfriend a month after my mom's death? My mom died 3 months ago. A month after my mom died, my dad started dating someone new, and I'm expected to be okay with it. This new woman also lost her husband a few months ago. I ended up uninviting my dad from Thanksgiving dinner after he told me about this new woman because I was so angry, which led to him and my grandparents, dad's parents, hating me. When I uninvited him, I told him that he was disgusting and it was disrespectful to my mom and that he could spend Thanksgiving dinner alone, thinking about how his dead wife would feel knowing he found someone new a month after her death. He ended up spending Thanksgiving with his new girlfriend. Meanwhile, his daughter, me, is still a complete mess after the death. And I realized he seemed to be doing just fine since he's able to say, "I love you," to this new woman and talk about moving in with her at some point soon. I just couldn't stand the thought of looking at him during dinner knowing that he had a new girlfriend. He kept telling me, "It just happened. Give her a chance. It's my life and I can do what I want," etc. My dad was always verbally abusive towards me and my mom, so I've literally spent my whole life walking on eggshells, not to upset my dad. My mom always used to protect me from him and keep him in line, since he always called me the worst daughter in the world. We didn't talk for the month between Thanksgiving and a few days before Christmas. Obviously, I needed time to cool down. I called him and texted him a few times during that month, but he ignored all of my attempts at contact. In that month, I learned that people have a lot of opinions about this subject. Some people say it's way too soon and agree with me, and others say that what I did was awful and to just let my dad be happy. I decided to be the bigger person and invite him to Christmas Eve dinner, and then he drops it on me that the only way he will go is if I invite his new girlfriend. I wanted us to all be together since it's the first Christmas without my mom. So I reluctantly agreed. I just sucked it up and pretended to be nice to this woman while my dad kept comparing her to my mom, and then saying he wasn't comparing them when I pointed out that he was. Now that the holiday's over, I kind of feel like a jerk, but at the same time, he's always been awful to me. I want to cut contact with him, but at the same time, I told my mom before she passed that I would try to get along with my dad, but it's too much effort. Am I the a-hole? Now for some comments. No a-holes here. Everyone mourns differently. If finding comfort in another woman is what helps him mourn, then so be it. It's probably comforting for both of them to be experiencing the same thing and having each other to lean on. At the same time, I don't think you should have brought her to family functions or family holidays yet, out of respect for others also mourning. I know it must be hard seeing your father with another woman so quickly. He should have taken your feelings into consideration, but you should also try and look at it from his perspective. Not the a-hole. Yes, everyone grieves differently, but if he had any respect for you and your grief, he would have waited more than a friggin' month. If he was my dad, I would be so mad and hurt. A word of advice, grief has no time limit. My mom died 7 years ago, and I still have moments of utter despair. Don't try to block these feelings out. Cry it out. People may ask you when you are going to stop grieving. Tell them never. You find ways to deal with it, but you never really get over it. I'm not trying to be a downer. You will be happy again. Please take care of yourself. Surround yourself with supportive people. I wish you the best. Not the a-hole. For sharing your view regarding the family situation with your dad. He is an a-hole for not sympathizing with your obvious, understandable struggle to move on, only making it more difficult for you to process things. However, you're the a-hole because it is till death do we part, and everybody should be allowed to move on without having negativity thrown on them. I hope you two can see common ground. If not, cutting out the negativity and just doing you will help you get through this difficult period. It's exhausting dealing with people who put the thoughts and feelings of others on hold. Your energy should be used for better things.